Hey team, I hope you're all well. Gary here from Gary Rankin Coaching, and today I want to talk to you about becoming stress-free. First things first, this is a totally clickbait title. And if we were to think about becoming completely stress-free for the rest of our lives, we might go about creating some unrealistic expectations for ourselves that in fact create more stress for us. Because stress is a perfectly natural part of life. And in the right amounts, stress is a perfectly healthy part of life. Stress is what inspires us to take action, to grow, to make changes, to meet deadlines. Heck, stress is even what makes our muscles bigger and stronger when we're in the gym. Stress only becomes a problem when we experience it in excess, when we have too much stress going on in one moment and we become overwhelmed, anxious, or feel out of control. Or when we have a prolonged exposure to stress consistently through our days, weeks, months, and lives. And that prolonged exposure to stressful thinking and to the chemicals and hormones associated with it then have a negative impact on our mental health, our physical health, and in turn, our emotional health. So instead of thinking about becoming completely stress-free, let's think about letting go of excess stress, managing stress in healthy ways, and using it as something to inspire and empower us to take action, make positive changes, and get what we want. The first step to letting go of excess stress and beginning to manage and process stress in our lives in much more healthy ways is to begin to manage and become more vigilant with our mindsets. Because stress is an internal experience which we have. It's mental, emotional, and hormonal experience that we have on the inside in relation to things on the outside, external events, situations, circumstances, and people. But it's not these things on the outside that cause us stress. It's our thinking about them, the perceptions which we choose, the stories which we tell ourselves, the significance we place on them, and the consequences that we think may happen on the other side of them. And so, for example, if we're getting stressed out about meeting a certain deadline, it's not the deadline itself that stresses us out, it's just a date and time. What stresses us out is the story we tell ourselves. Oh my goodness, I don't know if there's enough time. Oh my goodness, I don't know if I'm going to get it all done. Oh my goodness, if I don't get it done, this bad thing will happen. And at this point in time, right here and now, none of that stuff has happened. But because of the mental images, the conversation, and the story we're telling ourselves in our head, we're making that a reality in our head, and we create stressful emotions that close us off from opportunities and resources that make it more difficult for us to think logically and rationally and for us to take the next best action. And so, in any event, any circumstance, any situation, dealing with any person, when we notice that we're beginning to have an emotional reaction, when we notice that we're beginning to tighten up, our mind is beginning to narrow, we're beginning to close off and feel stressed, it's just to become aware of that. Awareness is key, and be present and realize, okay, I notice I'm having a reaction to this. And then ask ourselves, what is the story I'm telling myself about this? And listen for the answer. Listen to the narrative we're playing out about this thing. And then ask ourselves, what are the facts of the situation? Because often the story we tell ourselves includes additional things in it that contribute to the stress. Whereas if we just look at the facts of the situation, they're often much different. And then we can ask ourselves, how can I view this objectively? What about this can I control? And what action can I take? Because then once we're clear on what we can control, we can go and influence, impact, and control that to help us get the results that we want. When we ask what action we can take, we then know what we can go and do, and we can go and do it. And if there's nothing that we control and no action that we can take, then we can just let it go because there's nothing that we can do about it. And so the first step is beginning to manage our minds and manage the stories that we're telling ourselves so that we can manage our reactions and instead respond to things in much more empowering ways. The next step in letting go of excess stress and managing and processing stress in healthy ways is to take a meta view of our lives. when we're not in that moment faced with a stressor right in front of us, to give ourselves some time to sit down and assess our lives and ask ourselves, what things in my life are currently causing me stress? And just make a list of all the things that are currently causing stress. And then, of course, same as before, we want to take personal responsibility and explore in what ways could I be contributing to or creating stress around these things. And again, just explore. Am I maybe telling myself some unhelpful stories? Am I maybe avoiding taking action? Am I maybe blaming other people instead of dealing with it myself? And just explore how we could be contributing to it, because in doing that, we might immediately find an action that we could take or a change in our thinking that will help to alleviate a lot of stress. And so what things in my life are currently causing me stress, and what way could I be contributing to or creating stress around them? And then, how can I think about these things much more objectively and resourcefully? And again, write down an answer for how we could think about them in a way that allows us to be objective, logical, rational. And then, last but not least, what can I do to eliminate, mitigate, manage, or resolve this? And start coming up with solutions and ideas. Because the answers to all questions lie within, and I guarantee you there are some great answers within you. Maybe there's some things that you delegate to others. Maybe there's things that you stop doing. Maybe there's some things for you to start doing. Fantastic! You've now got some questions in your tool belt that you can use right there in the moment to help you to catch that initial stressful reaction and respond in much more resourceful and empowering ways. As well as that, with the exercise we've just completed, you'll now have some key insights, ideas and action steps that you can go away and implement to help you to let go of a load of excess stress and then process appropriate amounts of stress in much more healthy ways. And that exercise, you can repeat it whenever you want. I would advise that if you are experiencing a wee bit of stress at periods of your life, that you pull out your journal and go through that and see what excess stress can be let go of. That being said, I completely appreciate that life happens. Sometimes unexpected situations come up, unpleasant surprises may appear, and sometimes life just gets on top of us. And guess what? That's perfectly okay. And in those times when the stress gets the better of us and we're not quite sure how to manage our mindsets or change that narrative, we want some tools in our tool belt that we can use in those situations. And so first and foremost, we can always go for a walk. Getting up and walking away from whatever's stressing us out is hugely powerful, because it changes our state. By changing our physiology, by changing the blood flow within us, by getting some more oxygen, it completely transforms our thinking and the way that we feel. And so, first and foremost, if you're facing something stressful and it's getting the better of you, get up, walk away and go for a wee walk. Something else we can do is talk to someone. Just share that we're feeling stressed, that something's getting the better of us. And that talking to someone, that experience of getting that energy out and connecting with another human being is great at transforming how we feel. Next is to write it down. Writing things down on a pad or in our journals is like free therapy. It's just like talking to someone, except no one else needs to see or hear it. And so by writing things out, not only do we release that energy associated to it, but we can then view what we've written down much more objectively. Because when things are in our head, they can jump about and dance and grow arms and legs and keep escaping us and getting the better of us. But when we write it down, we can see it objectively in front of us, and then we can begin to use those questions from earlier in the video to challenge the narrative and things that are going on in our head, to objectively choose our options and how we want to respond. Number 4 is to exercise. Exercise is fantastic at helping us to change the way that we feel, because we can take that energy that's within us, we can put it into our muscles and we can burn it out through exercise. Not only that, when we exercise, we know we're doing something that's good for us, so it gives us that boost in confidence and self-esteem. It also gives us those incredible endorphins that are great at dealing with stress and anxiety. And so if you're feeling stressed out and you've got the space and time to right now, get some exercise. Number 5 is simply to face it. Sometimes we can get stressed out because we're avoiding something, we're procrastinating something, or we're not facing it. And so Plain and simple, we can face that thing, have that difficult conversation, send that email, take that action, and that can help to alleviate the stress. Number 6 is to do some deep breathing. Often when we get stressed, our physiologies tighten up, our breathing shortens and sharpens, and we only use about 1/3 or 2/3 of our lungs. And so just by becoming aware that we're becoming stressed and consciously using our diaphragm, using our stomach to breathe in from the very bottom of our lungs, fill our lungs right up, that extra oxygen is going to help to relieve that stress and inspire us with new ways of thinking. Hence why breathing in is called to inspire. And so when we inspire with oxygen, we can inspire ourselves with new thinking and new ways of doing things. Number 7 is to meditate. Meditation is great, not for completely calming the mind, because we might go mad if we think we have to completely calm our mind. Where meditation can be powerful is it lets us become aware of what's going on in our mind. It lets us become present and sit with what's going on in our mind. Because when we get quiet and just listen to the chatter going back and forward, we realise that we're not that chatter. It's just noise in our head, and that it then has much less power over us. And of course, meditation can help us to relax the body, to deepen the breathing, and it can help to quieten the mind. But even if the mind doesn't go quiet, we can still become present with what's in the mind, separate ourselves from it, and take our power back from it. Number 8 is to put it in perspective. And what I mean by that is to remember that one of these days we're going to die. One of these days will be our last day on earth, and we don't know when that is. And so in face of the irrefutable fact that we are going to die one day, how much importance or relevance does this stressor have? Because so often when something pops up that is stressful, we get our blinkers on, the time frames narrow, and this thing in front of us becomes all important and all consuming. But if we remember that one day we're going to die, all of a sudden that thing might no longer seem so big, might no longer seem so important. And so put it in perspective. In 5 years' time, what is this going to matter? The fact that you are going to die one day, what does it matter? Number 9, hug someone, stroke a pet, get some physical contact. Maybe don't just run up and hug a random stranger, we can get into trouble for that. But when we hug people that we know and love, or if we hug a stranger that we have permission to hug, when we stroke a pet, when we get physical contact with people, it helps us to release oxytocin. Oxytocin, often known as the love chemical or the love hormone, is great for relaxing the body. Hence why when kids fall and hurt themselves, we tend to kiss that area better. Not because the kiss is magic, but because that physical contact releases oxytocin, which helps to reduce stress and pain, and I think as well inflammation. And so there's 9 things that you can have in your tool belt to use right there and then in the moment. Go for a walk, talk to someone, write it down, exercise, face that thing. Do some deep breathing, meditate, put it in perspective, or hug someone and get physical contact. So now you've got tools that you can use in the moment if stress becomes too much. You've got tools you can use in the moment to manage that stress in the moment and respond in empowering ways. And you've got a tool that you can use to take a general look at your life, remove the excess stress and process stress in much more healthy ways. And so use these tools because they work if you put them to work. That being said, I appreciate there can be deeper lying things within our mindsets and within our lives that are causing us chronic, excessive stress. And so if that's the case and you're really struggling with this, that's perfectly okay. Please reach out to a coach or therapist for some help. That is exactly what we're here for. If you've got any questions or on any of this, or you want me to expand on it further, please feel free to reach out to your coach and ask them to get in touch, or you can get in touch with me at GaryRankin_ on Instagram. Have a great day, take care, take action, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Peace.